You are tuned into the Power Chord Hour right here on 107.9 WRFA, as well as the Power Chord Hour podcast. However you're listening to this or watching this, thanks for checking it out. Today, we have Marie with us, singer of the band Bone Haus. Their debut record, In Mourning, will be out in this June. First single, Rot, is out now everywhere. So we're going to talk some new music with Rain and just get into Bone Haus with her. Rain, how you doing?
Pretty good, thank you.
So, like I was just telling you before, I mean, pretty new to the band, but really I'm enjoying going back through this upcoming album. I know is your debut, but there's a couple EPs out there. You got some singles. Like the lead up for this album, I mean, does it feel any different, the lead up from, releasing an EP or singles? Like, is there any added, I don't even know if you want to call it pressure, whatever. Does it feel kind of different with the debut versus, past releases?
Oh, yeah. It feels a lot different this time around, especially because we're kind of shifting away from kind of the bluesier stuff that we used to do and going quite a bit heavier, which we don't even have any of that type of stuff out right now. So like we're kind of just going, screw it. We'll just release a whole new different kind of album and see how it goes. So it definitely feels very different. And it's definitely been a little more stressful than our EPs, I think, as well.
Yeah, I always wonder that. I mean, again, not the first thing the band's ever put out, but there's that something about it where it's like, it's your debut. I feel like there's something added to that. How long has the band been together for now?
Since I want to say 2018, loosely. It took a while to really get going, so maybe 2019 is like a better estimate, but
that's what I was going to ask, because sometimes bands, it's like you start and just right away you're writing and trying to play shows and all that. Was that more of like a slow burn in the beginning?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. It took us a while to find, like I found our guitarist very, very first, but the rest of the members, it took forever to like find people to get all together and start writing stuff. So like, it was definitely a slow burn.
Did you know each other? Did you know each other at all before? Or is this one of those cases where you kind of all met through the band?
Yeah, I met our guitarist Andre on Craigslist and then just kind of found everyone else through the scene or on Facebook or other social media.
Who is in the band with you? Who else do we have in Bone Haus?
Yeah, our guitarist is Andre Maldonado, and then our bassist is Allison Winkler, and then our drummer is Joe Black.
Very nice, very nice. Is there like with bands, I sometimes like influences change. I realize that like not everybody's always on the same page, but is there any like, would you say musical commonalities or things where all four of you would agree that, like, okay, that's a part of our sound? I mean, is there a commonality somewhere in there? I know influences change from everyone. It's hard to say everyone in the band loves the same things.
Yeah, honestly, that's a really tough one. Because we all have such different genre influences or artists, but I feel like when we're all talking about our common influences, it's more like abstract. We're like, we just kind of want it to sound spooky. How do we achieve that?
I kind of like that. It makes it a little more open-ended, I feel like, to make it sound spooky can go different ways, where it's like we just want it to sound like a punk band or this kind of band or something. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Did you like, going back to that, talking about like, I guess we'll call it like the slow burn in the beginning, like starting the band, did you kind of know what you wanted to sound like, or is it something where it forms as you're writing and playing? I mean, did you have much of a sound in your head when you wanted to get this band going, or did that just kind of form as you play?
Yeah, well, at the beginning, I definitely had an idea. I really wanted to be in a band that sounded like the Dead Weather, and then that just changed over time. Like, I just don't want to do that anymore. But at the beginning, that's what I wanted. And then we just started changing as we all started writing together, and it kind of worked out.
What were you doing musically before Bone Haus? Were you in any bands prior to that? Were you up to anything before joining this one?
Let's see, what was I doing around that time? I had just graduated high school and was just kind of floating around. I was in another punk band for a while, but that was short-lived. I played drums in that one, though, so I was doing something totally different. and just kind of hopping around jamming with random people, not really in a specific project. Trying to do solo stuff, but I like being in a band way more. So it didn't really go very far either.
Playing drums, like which one came first for you? Obviously you sing, and I know you also play guitar a little in Bone Haus. You play drums first or guitar, sing? Like which came first for you?
Singing definitely first. I learned to play guitar, so I had something to sing to, and then drumming came way, way, way later. I just sort of was like, yeah, I'll be in your band. I don't know how to drum, but like I'll do it.
Just learn as you go, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, like I mentioned, the new album's coming later, In Mourning, which I mean really isn't that far away, June, just about a month away. But there is a single out now called Rot. Was that you know, putting out, going back to that like debut album and being the first single off it, was it difficult at all figuring out what the first single would be, or was it pretty much just right away you're like, Rot's probably the best intro to this? I mean, was that an easy decision or is that tough at all?
I feel like it was a pretty easy decision. It was I don't know, that was one of the ones that came together so fast, and we didn't really even have to think about it. It just sort of happened, and we were like, well, I think that'll work. And it did.
I feel like it's a good, I mean, I guess I can't say what the rest of the record sounds like, but I feel like it's a good intro to it. Like it's a nice, it was my first time hearing the band, and I feel like it was a good intro to the band. I wanted to hear more after hearing that. How about, you know, if you want to give us, if you can give us a little background on the song for people who have, I've heard it, but I mean, for people who haven't heard it yet, I mean, you have any background on it, you know, the writing of it, anything to like say about Rot?
Um, I mean, it was we've had a sort of a recent lineup change with this coming album. Our bassist is the newest member of our band, and that was the first riff that she brought to the band. So it's kind of like her first contribution on of anything that we've ever released, which is pretty exciting. And I think she was a big reason why we sort of switched genres. Like the minute she brought that riff, we were like, all right, we got to do stuff with this now. This is too cool.
Oh, I love that. No, again, it's a good intro to anybody who hasn't, you know, really heard the band. I think it's like a good starting point. Going with
Totally.
that, having like different, you know, like having a different lineup and everything, has the writing process, did the writing process change like on this record? I mean, again, it kind of sounds like it, but I mean, did the way of how you used to write songs for the band kind of change up with this lineup change in this album at all?
That's a good question. Uh, I think, yeah, with the new lineup change, the person we had in the band before really took on a lot of the writing responsibilities, with riffs and whatever. And so with them sort of stepping away and us getting our new member, we all have had to stand on our own feet a lot more. I know that for this album, I've written a lot more of the songs that I have previously, which is a big thing for me. And like we have riffs that were contributed by the drummer this time around. Like everybody has contributed very, very like, super collaborative this time around, which is really, really exciting.
That's very cool. Where
Yeah.
was where was the new album recorded? Where'd you end up recording the album at?
At my drummer's house.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
That makes it easier. You're less, there's, I feel like there's less you know, like we have to do it within this time, like we have 12 hours in this studio or something like that. I feel like you get a little more time with a, you know, situation.
Yeah. And way cheaper.
That's way, way cheaper. How long did
Yeah.
it, was it one of those you know, like nowadays, like with albums, I mean, normally when I talk to people, it's not always like we just sat in the studio for 2 weeks and did it. Sometimes it's like, you know, cut up and, you know, you did it over the course of a few months. I mean, was this an album that you did in a few days? Did you kind of play with it for a while, record, come back to it later on? You know, how was that recording process? Was it all like kind of in one sitting, or did you kind of take some time and record this?
Oh, I wish we had taken more time to record it. We have a really bad habit of writing songs and then playing them live for a billion years before we record and release them. So this time I was like, nope, we're not playing these live. We're going to record these before we ever play them. And I gave us a timeline, but then people got sick or people couldn't make it. So then we ended up just like as fast as possible, just getting it out in a matter of probably a month.
Oh wow.
Yeah, which is I wish we had taken more time, but it is what it is, and I'm sure it'll still sound fine.
Oh, I'm sure it'll still be great. With
Yeah.
like, playing those songs live though, I mean, do you feel like that does help with like fleshing them out before you actually go record them? I'd imagine with that they might change up a little from like, the first time you play it live to the 10th time, like maybe
Oh,
there's a
yeah.
new guitar noodling in there or like some little added thing, do you feel like songs flesh out a little more when you play them live before recording them?
I definitely think so, at least with Rot, like, the way that we've played it in the past and even how it sounds in the recording is definitely not how it sounds live now, which is it's always strange, like, it just feels like songs take on their own life, I can't really stop it from changing the way that it's gonna change. Um, but also that's the fun part is sometimes I like, not playing songs live and having them recorded, then releasing them, and then just seeing how it goes, you know?
See how it works that way too.
Yeah.
Does the band, on the live side of things, I mean, does the band get a chance to play out much? I mean, do you play a decent amount of shows?
Yeah, we've actually had to start saying no a lot, which is
That's a good problem to
super
have.
humbling. Yeah, we play locally a lot. We haven't gone out of town as much as we'd like to, but, that is a plan. It's just tough. Planning tours is tough.
Yeah, you can't just jump on the road and just have, the shows aren't booked, the audience, you gotta work your way to that, I feel like.
Yeah, it's rough, but that is the plan. We're gonna do it.
What is the if I'm not mistaken, I believe you're in Boise or near Boise. What is the I would love to know like the local music scene there. I mean, like what's it like? Are there bands to play with? Are there venues to play at? Like what is
Oh, yeah.
that scene like?
Oh, I am the Boise music scene, I believe, is such a hidden gem that, like, when people hear about Boise and Idaho, they kind of don't care. It's like, everyone's like, "Oh, potatoes," and that must be it. No, I mean, we have a huge giant music festival out here called Tree Fort Music Fest, where, like, people from all over the world come and play. It's,
Nice.
super, super cool. Yeah, like, 2 years ago, if you know the Destroy Boys, like, they were headlining and, like, yeah, a bunch of really awesome bands. And, like, there's lots of venues around here, a good DIY scene as well, people opening up their houses and, like, letting people play in their basements, which is awesome. And then, like, there's a lot of venues around as well. And the scene is just full of so many different kinds of music. I really encourage everyone to, like, deep dive into the Boise scene and the Boise music here because you'll find something that you really like. I can absolutely guarantee it.
That's really cool. I always like hearing that there's like there's scenes like that in places where you may not
Mhm.
expect it. How about like anywhere else, like kind of going off that, like in Idaho, do you know of any other like pockets of cool little music scenes going on where it's like people would have zero clue, where it's like, oh wow, like this college town somewhere in Idaho actually has basement shows every weekend kind of thing. And
Mhm.
maybe if you're not from there, you don't know it, but they have a very vibrant scene. Are there any other like pockets around there, like strong music scenes people might be surprised about?
I would probably say Moscow. Um, that yeah, Moscow's a weird place, but they have like a college radio station there, and they will. I've been brought out for interviews with some of my old bands there before, and played in people's houses, or in like random coffee shops. Even if the genre was like so inappropriate for that venue, people still wanted it. So Moscow's a pretty cool one. It's a college town, so college kids are always looking to get into something fun.
That always helps. Yeah, the small towns a lot of times, if they have the college kids, that will still bring
Oh
out
yeah,
some kind of music scene.
absolutely.
With the band, do you have any like you got any real goals with Bone Haus in terms of things you want to do with the band or like kind of accomplish? Or I mean, is it kind of more go with the flow and see what kind of, comes to you, what kind of comes to the band?
Really, I think my biggest I just want to tour really, really bad. We've hit a few spots in the like Pacific Northwest, but I would love to try to plan stuff in the Midwest or even start looking at the East Coast as well. Just trying to play out as much as possible, I think would be very, very cool.
That'd be nice. Hopefully you get to I mean once you get the debut album out, that definitely helps too. More stuff out in the world for people to check out and more people to come to the shows other places.
Totally.
Have you had a chance, I know we were talking about like playing songs a lot live before you record them. Have you had a chance to play songs off this new record live? I mean, have these gotten to be played live yet, or there's still a good chunk of them that you haven't been able to play in that setting?
We have played, I want to say 4 out of the 10 live. Rot, we've played a lot, and then 2 others are we play fairly often, and then one we just played one time and was like, well, that'll be cool. We got that out.
Nice.
No one will hear it again until we release it.
Out of those 4 you've played, does one stick out as well? I mean, like, albums on record versus translating live, obviously some which, like, to me, Rot sounds like it'd be a good live one. That seems like a good like live staple. Did one of those 4 stick out as one that translated live the best?
Ooh. Probably, I mean, I'm sure it's fine. I don't care. I was like, I don't know if my drummer will get mad at me for saying anything, but it's fine. We were thinking about releasing a second single coming up to the album, but that just didn't work out. But the song called Comfort on the Floor, that's not out yet, but it will be eventually. I think that one is a really, really good one live. It's super emotional and has a lot of like big dynamics as far as instrumentation goes. And so like recording wise, you sort of get some of that, but live, you definitely get to experience a lot more of the dynamics and all the intensity of it.
Definitely one then to hear live. A reason to go see you live if you come around people's area.
Totally.
Obviously the new record's the big thing to look forward to, but anything else coming up in the world of Bone Haus we should have let people be on the lookout for? Anything else kind of coming up?
Really? No. We've just been like,
the album's a pretty big.
Yeah. We've been focusing hard on that, and hopefully we'll be in your city or in somebody's city eventually. We're looking at the Pacific Northwest, so maybe we'll see some of y'all or some of these people around there.
Very nice, very nice. People want to, on the radio show will play some of Bone Haus for them, but how about online? Where can we find the band online, social media, all that? Where can we find the album once that's out? And the new single, Rot, where do we find all that?
Yeah, all of our music, I believe, is on pretty much every streaming platform. So like Apple Music, Spotify, I know it's on YouTube. So pretty easy to find. And that's where the album will be released to, is all over the place. And then social media wise, we have Facebook and Instagram. We're definitely more active on Instagram. So that's probably the better place to check it out. Yeah.
Best place to find you is probably Insta. All right. How about, anything else before we close this out? If you're listening to the radio show, we'll play some music now from the band, but anything else to let the good people know before we close this out? Do we miss anything?
No, I mean, just listen to our new single.
As we'll do right now.
Thank you so much for having me on here.
Absolutely. I'm Anthony Merchant talking to Rain Marie, singer of the band Bone Haus. Again, new single or new record, In Mourning, out this June. And we got a new single right now called Rot. I'll be back with more in just a second. You're tuned in to the Power Chord Hour.